and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Kanishka Gupta. It's the 6th of September 2023 and here are the questions we will be answering today. What are the key things to look for at New Delhi G20 Summit? What is the significance of Sahasra chip plant? Do metal stocks have more metal? And what are airline codes? Delhi is all decked up to host world leaders. The final and most important leg of G20 Summit under India's presidency will be held on September 9th and 10th, during which a host of issues affecting the world will come up for discussion. And this summit comes at a time when the world is still nursing the fragile economy and staring at increased challenges to globalization. So what are the key things to look forward to from this event? Abhijit Kumar offers a peek.
Over a decade after the Commonwealth Games, Delhi is once again spruced up. Zebra crossings have got a fresh coat of paint and dust-coated trees have been showered with water. Street art depicting culture of the country has also come up on walls and metro pillars. The weather too is slowly turning pleasant, with some nip in the air, giving a perfect setting for the G20 summit which India is heading this time around. Leaders of 20 countries will on September 9th and 10th brainstorm on a range of issues to make the world a better place. Over 100 meetings across 50 cities have already taken place in the lead up to the Leaders Summit. But arriving at a consensus in an increasingly polarized world will be tough. All the ministerial meetings held in the run-up to the upcoming leaders' meet failed to come out with a joint communique. Countries couldn't agree on binding action, largely due to objections to the language on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. So brokering a tangible multilateral outcome will be a challenge before the grouping and the host India, which is trying to showcase itself as the voice of Global South. The B20 Summit, G20's official dialogue forum with the global business community held on 25th and 27th August, focused on the financial challenges of the future. These included cryptocurrencies and debt distress, among other issues. And on Tuesday, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that discussions were underway on a global framework to regulate crypto assets and that cryptocurrencies could not be regulated efficiently without the cooperation of all countries.
The framework to regulate crypto assets. There is a synthesis note that has been prepared by FSB and IMF. FSB is the Financial Stability Board, which is looking at a overall regulatory framework for crypto assets. So far, we had only one report by FSB, which was launched in July. And that report was it did not address some of the key concerns that India has. India is pushing very actively for debt restructuring of vulnerable nations. And here also there is a need to form consensus. There has been a big stumbling block when it comes to getting on board China. There is also the case for MDB reforms, for which one report has been filed by the expert group chaired by Larry Summers.
Another major agenda India has been pushing was to find a solution to climate change. The G20 Energy Transitions Working Group meeting held in Goa between July 19th to 22nd saw participants share their views that the energy transition pathway should be different for each country depending on their energy base and potential. But in a big achievement for India, 19 countries agreed to join its initiative of a global biofuel alliance to expand the deployment of biofuels as a low-carbon pathway. So what's in store for India's push for a global biofuel alliance and the larger climate financing goals?
Energy transition is one of the key themes under India's G20 presidency. Climate action, efforts for global energy transition, reduction in fossil fuel, and also clean energy deployments. It is expected that Prime Minister Narendra Modi would announce the Global Biofuel Alliance during the Leaders Summit. and we are expecting wide participation from not just G20 but non-G20 countries as well. This would be the third alliance this India would be spearheading after the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. Through these alliances and taking a leadership position on energy transition and climate action, we are expecting that India would be one of the most aggressive voices during the upcoming COP28 and would be voicing the concerns of the global south. In the outcome statement from the Energy Transition Ministerial, there were two key major announcements. One was the G20 nations agreed to tripling the renewable energy deployment, and the second was doubling the energy efficiency across these countries. The G20 nations, though, agreed for phasing down the unabated fossil fuels, there was not a clear trajectory in terms of the targets or technologies.
Sensing changing global order, India has taken a step forward by announcing support to the African Union for a permanent G20 membership. Meanwhile, the Russia-Ukraine war remains an elephant in the room. Russian ambassador to India, Denis Alipov, recently said that the West should be prepared to change the paragraphs on the Ukraine conflict, including in the Bali Declaration, if they want a joint statement at the G20 summit. So how will the geopolitical agendas set by India see the light of the day given the hostility between a few member nations?
India's proposal to include African Union as a member is pretty significant because of India's whole focus on the global south and making G20 a more inclusive platform. Next growth is expected to come from Africa, and India is also planning to have a free trade agreement with African Union in future. The second thing is the language over the Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine-Russia war is the elephant in the room. Whether India will be able to deliver a joint communique during its G20 presidency. If it doesn't, then this will be the first time that during any G20 presidency in last several years that there will not be a joint communique.
The various meetings held under the G20 umbrella have given India a stage to project itself as a growing power of the global south. It remains to be seen if India can achieve consensus in this polarized grouping.
Coming close on the heels of the moon mission, a successful G20 event will certainly boost India's standing in the world. Meanwhile, another one of India's ambitions, which is becoming a part of the global semiconductor ecosystem, will get a fillip soon. In a few days from now, a relatively lesser known player in the Indian tech fraternity, Sahasra Electronics, will start testing and packaging these sophisticated chips at its plant in Rajasthan's Bhiwadi district. So will it give the much needed boost to India's semiconductor ambitions? Ayush Mishra finds out.
Rajasthan-based Sahasra Semiconductor is set to start commercial production of India's first domestically manufactured memory chips, slated to commence from September or early October. This milestone positions Sahasra as the pioneer in chip production in India, ahead of Micron Technologies. Sahasra will initiate packaged memory cards like microSD, chip-on-board, etc., and later move on to advanced packaging of products like internal memory chips. Speaking to Business Standard, a company spokesperson said it realized that there was a significant gap in technology, knowledge, people, and everything. That's how it moved to semiconductor assembly and test. Sahasra Bhiwadi plant is an outsourced semiconductor assembly and test facility, which assembles and packages chips for other brands. The company will turn a semiconductor wafer packed with hundreds of chips into end devices that is deployed in different electronics products. According to a report by Counterpoint Research and the India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, India's semiconductor market is expected to touch $64 billion by 2026, almost 3 times its 2019 size of $22.7 billion. So, where does India's chip making, chip packaging, and the testing ecosystem stand?
In overall semiconductor ecosystem, there are two parts of the manufacturing. One is wafer manufacturing, and second is basically packaging and testing. I think basically with lot of technical advances in packaging and basically scaling not happening on the silicon side as per the Moore's law, the packaging in form of the chiplet and 2D and 3D integration has become very important aspect of our industry, especially in the manufacturing area. And typically, manufacturing at the ATMP level is less capital expensive as compared to a wafer fab. So, looking at all those factors, it is good that India is basically starting with the packaging and testing and then basically graduating to wafer manufacturing.
The Indian semiconductor industry has witnessed significant developments recently. Micron has unveiled a massive $2.75 billion project, while Foxconn has decided to terminate its partnership with Vedanta. Singapore-based IGSS Ventures is gearing up to develop a cutting-edge technology park in Tamil Nadu, while Global Foundries is actively seeking a collaborator in India. Amidst these developments, Sahasra emerged as a standout success story. India's semiconductor ecosystem has predominantly revolved around chip packaging and testing, with limited involvement in chip fabrication. The country has been striving to bridge this gap through various initiatives, including the production-linked incentive scheme.
The current government has been focusing on seeing how we can bring the semiconductor industry in India, because we are specifically talking here about semiconductors. They also created a production-linked incentive, not only for the semiconductor industry, but also for mobile manufacturing, for recently the PLI for IT, the hardware, the desktop, laptop, tablets, all of them. In all these production and incentive, while when you produce, the government is going to give incentive. So you can imagine before this incentive schemes came, the situation was extremely bad in India related to there was no semiconductor manufacturing, testing, packaging, all of those things were not happening here.
The electronics industry's massive import bill prompted the government to push for a self-reliant ecosystem and encourage indigenous production. For the development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem in India, PLI outlay of 76,000 crore rupees was approved by the government. Sahasra Semiconductor's upcoming production facility represents the fruition of these initiatives. So does this mean Sahasra's chip can boost India's semicon ambitions?
Every packaging unit, packaging and testing unit will basically help in component ecosystem in India, be it Micron, be it Sahasra, because the output of the packaging units directly go to the customers. Okay, unlike the wafer, which has to go to the packaging as its next step, using the chips out of these ATMP plants will certainly increase the value addition in the electronics manufacturing industry. Also, it will basically help in developing the component ecosystem.
Analysts believe if the company can navigate the intricate maze of production challenges and maintain consistency, it could lay the roadmap for a semiconductor ecosystem in India. The journey towards chip fabrication is fraught with challenges, and the emergence of Sahasra as a semiconductor player is a noteworthy development. The next few years will determine if it holds the promise of strengthening India's semiconductor ambitions.
Like the chips, metals too play a crucial role in the economy. The Nifty Metal Index hit a fresh record high on September 4th as investors cheered the stimulus rollout in China. Back home, India's solid growth story backed by capex push is keeping analysts bullish on the pack. However, as the global demand is yet to show green shoots, has the rally in metal stocks reached its peak? Nikita Vashisht explores in our next report.
China has been stepping up efforts to boost its faltering economy. From lowering the minimum down payment to easing mortgage restrictions, China, the world's largest steel consumer, is showcasing its policy determination to support the property sector. The result? Metal stocks have rebounded sharply over the past few weeks. The Nifty Metal Index hit a fresh record high of 7,043 at the Bourses on September 4, having surged 30% since March lows. The Nifty 50 Index, on the contrary, has moved up only 15% during the period. But is this really sustainable?
Chinese production and more importantly, Chinese demand are very crucial in determining metal prices. It is too early to say that the recent firmness in metal prices will sustain, because the Chinese property market is in deep trouble, and it remains to be seen whether the recent stimulus measures will sustain, will lead to a sustained recovery in the property market. It is quite possible that this will fizzle out.
Domestic hot-rolled coiled steel prices have increased by roughly 1,000 rupees per ton month-on-month in August, averaging 56,300 rupees per ton as against price cuts being undertaken in June and July. The rise, analysts said, was on the back of robust domestic demand, where steel consumption grew 18% year-on-year and 7.4% month-on-month during July 2023. On the contrary, prices of non-ferrous metals such as aluminium, copper and zinc decreased by 4 to 6% month-on-month in August. Brokerage firm Prabhudas Leeladhar, which has initiated coverage on the sector, believes that as the Chinese economy recovers, albeit slowly, and interest rates peak out across Western countries, steel prices could trend upwards in the second half of the current fiscal year.
India, as we know, is expected to grow faster than the world GDP, and that will translate into volume growth. So we are basically positive on volume side. It's going to be a strong push from infrastructure spending led by government, as well as recovery in automobiles, as well as other sectors like real estate. We believe that a gradual recovery in China, as well as developed nations like US and Europe, should help the prices.
Chaudhary is bullish on Jindal Steel and Power Limited, Tata Steel, Jindal Stainless and JSW Steel, and sees 15 to 28% upside in these stocks from current levels. Despite the global demand, green shoots not yet visible on the ground, analysts believe structurally good companies with valuation comfort would outperform the markets in the long run. On September 6, markets will take cues from global peers on directional moves.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
From metal stocks, let us turn our gaze towards the sky. The International Air Transport Association has blocked the airline code of 2 Indian airlines that are no longer in service. Yes, the Jet Airways that stopped functioning in April 2019 and the Go First that discontinued its operations in May this year lost their airline codes, which are 9W and G8. But what are these airline codes? Tariq Ahmed explains.
While traveling by air, you might have come across 2-letter codes on boarding passes and on airline menus, like 6E302, AI125, EY100, UK955, BA1, etc. Announcements at airports and during the flights also refer to these codes. But what does it signify? The International Air Transport Association, or IATA, provides the unique 2-letter designator combined with numeric codes to airlines called airline codes. Airline codes are used for reservations, schedules, timetables, telecommunications, ticketing, cargo documentation, legal and tariff purposes. The digit that follows the airline code is the specific number of the aircraft. The airline code helps to standardize the identification, communication, and coordination of airlines and its destinations worldwide. Airline codes are often used in airport signage and screens that display schedules. So, remembering the airline code helps the passengers to identify the right queues and to collect their luggage. For instance, for Indigo, the IATA assigned airline code is 6E, and the digits that follow indicate the number that is given to the specific aircraft of Indigo Airlines, like 6E2005 or 6E135. The IATA provided number for Air India is AI. BA is the airline code given to British Airways. There are also a 3-digit airline code that is assigned by the International Civil Aviation Organization or the ICAO, which is used for air traffic control and route planning. The ICAO assigned airline code for Indigo Airlines is IGO, and for Air India it's AIC. Airlines can trade their airline codes. For example, the current British Airways code BA was bought from the discontinued Brazilian airline Bavex in 1974. Also, sometimes IATA codes have been retired out of respect for tragic incidents. As a sign of paying homage to the Trans World Airlines that crashed in 1996, IATA discontinued the TW airline code.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
The International Air Transport Association, meanwhile, has said that the 2-letter designator and numeric codes will remain blocked for 12 months in case of Go First. During the period, the airline can ask for its reinstatement if it meets the requirement. Well, that's all for today. For more news, views and analysis, please log on to business-standard.com. If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.